Alrighty, guys, thank you so much for joining my broadcast. I have officially go live. The reason why I wanted to go live a little bit early is because I do have people joining, and so I wanted to give some time for people to join in time. So, again, thank you guys so much for joining my live stream, and we will continue to keep you guys updated on the weather. We're just going to be waiting just a few minutes for people to join, and I will get to anyone who's already on my stream pretty soon. So yeah. Alrighty, guys. I am currently live right now, and I am going to be doing some weather coverage today. So I'm so glad you guys are joining my live stream today. We're going to just be waiting 1 or 2 minutes for a few more people to join, and then we will get to you in just a second. So we are currently live right now. We're going to go ahead and start doing some live coverage. And if you are new here, feel free to leave things in the chat. You can certainly ask questions about your location or how the weather's going to be. And if you are also new here, you can also like and subscribe to if you haven't already. So you can definitely do that if you haven't already, and we will continue to keep you guys updated on the weather. So let's go ahead and first start off with what's happening across the United States today. And as you can see, we currently do have a enhanced risk for severe storms across portions here of southeast Iowa, heading into northeast Missouri, back into parts of western Illinois. And so this is definitely going to be a big deal continuing for the rest of today. And that's because for the tornado threat, we do have a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes across the same areas that I was just mentioning. And as you can see, these black marks right here are the hatched risk, and that indicates a chance for strong tornadoes, also known as EF2 tornadoes or greater. So if you do live in places like Des Moines, heading here into places like western Illinois, back into northeast Missouri, and even up here into into maybe a little bit of southwest Wisconsin will be at risk for some strong tornadoes. For the wind threat, we do have a 15% chance for damaging winds across Illinois, heading into eastern Iowa, back into pretty big portion of Missouri, including the central part, and even back into northern Arkansas. And so this is definitely going to still be something to watch for. And then the hail threat, same areas again. We do have a threat for some large hail across these same areas that I just mentioned with the tornado threat and that hatched risk that you see. That does indicate a chance for 2-inch in diameter hail or greater. But let's see here. The Colt of Milo says, are there tornado risk in Indiana? There are tornado risk in Indiana, and as you can see, Indiana is actually in a 2% risk for tornadoes today, and that's just the western part of Indiana, okay? That's just the western part. And the western part of Indiana also has a wind and hail threat too as well. So if you do live in western Indiana, including Evansville, you're definitely going to want to be weather aware tonight, and so there could definitely be some pretty good things that we do certainly need to watch. And let's see here. Dylan says, hello, stay safe, my friend. Thank you so much, Dylan. That was very nice of you. And like I said, you can continue to stick around. But again, if you do live in western Indiana, or if you even live in this 10% hatched risk for tornadoes, or even this 5%, you're definitely going to want to be weather aware for the rest of today and into the nighttime hours. Because again, we do have a decent threat for tornadoes across this entire area. And I am going to say that we are also at risk for tornadoes too. It just hasn't happened yet. But let's go ahead and talk about day 2 outlook, okay? For day 2 outlook, as you can see, we do have another slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for severe storms across southeast Michigan, heading into northeast Indiana, back into northern Ohio, and even portions here of central Ohio. And then look at that marginal risk. That goes all the way down here towards places like northern Mississippi, back into northern Alabama, heading into northern Georgia, back into a pretty big portion of Kentucky, back into Tennessee, even up there towards even western Pennsylvania too as well. So we do have a lot of areas that do need to be weather aware for tomorrow too as well. And then even back up over here towards places like western Missouri, back into places of Kansas, even heading into a little bit of southern Nebraska will definitely be at risk too as well. So tornado threat, there is a decent risk for tornadoes today. As you can see, we do have a 5% chance for tornadoes across Detroit, Michigan, heading into Fort Wayne, back into Cleveland. So that area needs to be weather aware as we do head into tomorrow. We don't expect strong tornadoes for that area, but we are to the point where we do need to be watching for a couple spin up tornadoes across this area, and then wind and hail threat do look to be pretty concerning, but especially the hail threat because it is most widespread. Now for the last day, which is going to be for Thursday, as you can see, for Thursday there is a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for severe storms heading from northeast Texas back up here towards southwest Indiana. And as you can see, this does include Memphis, Little Rock, Evansville, Indiana, Clarksville, Tennessee, even getting there into Jackson, Tennessee too as well. So we do have some areas that will need to be watched pretty closely. Let's see here. Dylan says, how does the tornado watch affect airplane flights pass? Do they change them? If there's a tornado watch, sometimes they do change flights, and that kind of gives them a good idea that there could be some storms around capable of producing tornadoes, and so that's a good reason to cancel airplane flights is because of tornado watches. And again, that's because there is good risk for tornadoes whenever one does get issued. So yeah, of course they will change them if there is a tornado watch getting issued, but it also depends on what's happening during the tornado watch too as well, because sometimes there are storms producing lots of tornadoes, but sometimes there isn't. But overall, they will definitely be changing the flight somewhat because of the good chance for tornadoes, and that's due to the tornado watch again. But anyway, again, we still do need to be watching Thursday as well, and as you can see, this marginal risk does include some pretty populated areas. This includes San Antonio down there in Texas, heading in there into Dallas, Texas, Indianapolis, Indiana, back into Austin, Texas, and even Fort Wayne, Indiana, or almost Fort Wayne, but I meant to say Fort Worth, Texas, also included in a threat for some tornadoes too as well. So certainly something to keep an eye on, and again, that's certainly because there is certainly a good risk for some tornadoes today, and so that will be something to really keep an eye on. So we certainly will need to be watching for. And like I said, you guys can certainly leave questions in the chat. Things will definitely continue to be like this as well. So definitely be weather aware if you again live in one of these severe weather risks, and that's because the probability is pretty high. So again, if you do live in one of these severe weather threats, including the one for Thursday, you certainly do need to be weather aware, and that's because, you know, a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat can mean a good risk for some strong to even severe thunderstorms. So still something to certainly keep an eye on. And again, feel free to leave things in the chat if you haven't already, and that's because, you know, if you are having a hard time figuring out what to do during a severe thunderstorm warning or tornado warning, you can certainly ask me about that. Let's see here. Landon says, thank you for all the information. You are welcome. I'm just going to say all this is extremely important for a lot of people because not very many people know about these threats, and that's kind of why it is important to let people know about all this stuff, is because things do kind of get active and some people don't even notice. So that is why I am giving out all this information, is because not a whole lot of people know about this stuff, and so that's why it can be extremely important to give out this type of information. But I am also going to be showing you guys how this line of storms is also ongoing, and as you can see, we do have quite a bit of tornado warnings already ongoing with this line of storms. It looks like we do have a few tornado warnings for southern Minnesota, and southern Minnesota, if we go back to the enhanced risk, southern Minnesota actually was in a decent risk for some strong storms today. Not an enhanced risk, but at least a slight risk for the extreme southern part of Minnesota. And as you can see, we do have a few of those tornado warnings ongoing in parts of Minnesota. And if we click on them, as you can see, some of these tornado warnings that I'm already clicking on are radar indicated, which just means that there is confirmed rotation using the radar, and that does not mean there is a tornado. That just means there has been rotation shown on the radar, and so that definitely indicates that there could be a tornado, and so that's why it is good to issue tornado warnings whenever there is a little bit of radar indicated rotation, and so that is important to do so. And as you can see, I haven't told you guys this yet, but this line of storms heads all the way up from Minnesota, all the way down to almost Arkansas, even northeast Texas. Holy moly. I mean, that's a really big storm system there, and all of these thunderstorms are likely going to head eastward towards Indiana, possibly western Kentucky, and even a couple of other areas likely to be at risk for severe thunderstorms, especially as we do head into the evening and overnight hours tonight. And so Indiana, Kentucky, even up there towards Michigan will all be areas to watch for as we do head into the nighttime hours, because again, there could certainly be some pretty good severe thunderstorm warnings in some locations as this line of storms does move to the east. And as you can see, it's already starting to try to connect together to form an organized line of storms. So still going to be something to really be keeping an eye on as we do head into the next few days, but especially tonight, which is what this line of storms is likely going to impact. But let's also go ahead and show you guys the thunderstorm risk, okay? This is your chances for thunderstorms. Not severe thunderstorms, but thunderstorms. And as you can see, all of this red shaded color for places like southern Wisconsin, heading into northern stretches of Illinois, back into a little bit of western Indiana, has a 70% chance of seeing thunderstorms, which does make sense because as I showed you on the radar, we had a lot of tornado warnings ongoing in parts of southern Minnesota, and as you can see, there is a decent risk for thunderstorms there, but especially here in southern Wisconsin, back into northern Illinois, also does look to be an area to also continue watching too as well. But if we go during the next zoo run, which is going to be during the evening hours, and as you can see, as we do head into the evening hours, it looks like places like northern Kentucky and southern Indiana, including Evansville, has a 70% chance for thunderstorms during the evening hours and into the overnight hours tonight. So this will still be an area to watch for because as you can see, that line of storms is likely to start out kind of like this. So all this blue shade color could indicate the line of storms, and then during the next couple of hours or so during the evening and into the overnight hours, this line of storm likely to shift out to the east, still bringing threats for damaging winds, large hail, and even tornadoes across all of this blue color shown on the map, as you can see, and especially this red shaded color. So if you do live in Evansville, up there towards Indianapolis, even and even a couple of these other areas, I do recommend being extremely weather aware, and that is because we will be talking about some pretty decent size hail and even a couple more things too as well. So again, it is certainly something that we do need to be keeping an eye on, and so we will be keeping you guys updated on how the line of storms play out. But I am going to give you guys another view of that again, and as you can see, this storm is likely to shift off to the east as we continue to get closer to the evening, and again, this is likely to impact places like Indiana, heading down there towards Kentucky into Tennessee. So again, be weather aware if you do live in the path of this line of storms, which again will likely include Indiana, heading into Kentucky, back into Tennessee. So all those areas again will need to be watching this line of storms as we do head into the nighttime hours tonight. So certainly something to keep an eye on, and we will continue to keep you guys updated on this line of storms. But as we go ahead and take a look at the malls, there's another severe weather threat I would like to talk about, which is going to be for Thursday. But I also do want to show you guys that we do have ingredients for severe storms. So right now we got plenty of CAPE across Iowa, heading down there towards Missouri, even Illinois, even some pretty scattered spots down there towards Ohio, Indiana, and even some little pockets of 1,000 down there towards Kentucky. So pretty wild CAPE, guys, pretty wild CAPE across a lot of these areas. And if you're wondering what CAPE means, it means convective available potential energy, and it's kind of like putting gas into a vehicle, but instead it's in the atmosphere, and it what helps fuel these storms. So again, we do got some pretty good CAPE around, and this is likely going to be helping with the storms as they continue to move to the east. And as you can see, that CAPE will likely shift off to the east, and as you can see, even all that strong CAPE around 1,000 joules per kilogram likely to continue through Indiana, Kentucky, western Tennessee, northwest Arkansas, or northeast Arkansas rather, but northeast Arkansas may still get a little bit of that. And as you can see, it still continues. Cause look at all that, even some 1,000 joules per kilogram up here towards places like Kentucky, southern Indiana, and even some 3,000 joules per kilogram down here towards Kentucky, let's see here. Grant says, thank you. Awesome job explaining what's coming our way. I'll be using Weather Aware a lot now. Well, yeah, thank you very much for telling me that. That is very nice of you, and I'm glad you are going to be weather aware for tonight and even into Thursday, because that's where Indiana is at risk for severe storms, and I can go ahead and show you guys that again. And as you can see, we do have a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for severe thunderstorms. That does include southern Illinois, southeast Missouri, back into a pretty big portion here of Arkansas, and even down here towards northeast Texas. So again, this is a pretty big area that we do need to be watching as we do head into Thursday. But I would also keep an eye on Evansville, down there towards Jackson, and Memphis, Tennessee too as well. So certainly something to keep an eye on, like I said. And this one only heads out all the way to Thursday, at least during the very beginning part of Thursday. So we're going to be using a different model to talk about that. So as we do talk about Thursday's severe weather threat, okay, as you can see for the NAM model, which is a pretty good model to use when you're talking CAPE, it is wanting to show some really good convective available potential energy, and again, that does stand for CAPE, and we will likely see some pockets of around 2,000 joules per kilogram, even some pretty good pockets of, almost 2,000 joules per kilogram in some areas, even some 3,000 joules per kilogram in some areas, which is definitely a lot, guys. It definitely is a lot when you're talking severe thunderstorms. And a couple more things that you need is dew points, okay? For dew points, it looks like we are going to be talking 70-degree dew points. Look at all those 70s already showing up on the map. So 70-degree dew points is a ton of moisture to work with when you're using severe thunderstorms, or when you're talking severe thunderstorms. And so this is definitely going to be pretty concerning for a lot of these areas, especially because we have so much moisture to work with, which means these thunderstorms could be alive for a pretty long time as long as the dew points continue to feed them. So it will be something to keep an eye on as we head into Thursday. And then for the wind, we do have some wind shear, but some areas almost no wind shear, though, as you can see. Less than 40 knots is some pretty low wind shear for sure. But even using the 500 millibar, as you can see, we do kind of get a little increase in wind shear. But, and as you can see, as we continue to get lower, we start to see a more increase of wind shear around 60 knots, so that is definitely some pretty good wind shear right there. And then even the lowest part of the atmosphere still is looking to be quite strong when you're talking wind shear. So the lower parts of the atmosphere are looking to be a lot more stronger than the upper parts of the atmosphere, which, I mean, you don't need a lot of wind shear in every single part of the atmosphere. So that could still indicate some spin-up tornadoes, so certainly something to keep an eye on. Let's see here. Brad says, thanks for the great information. This helps me plan my next few days. You are welcome, Brad. You are welcome, and I'm really glad all of you guys are liking my information, because again, guys, this is really important when you are talking severe storms, because again, not very many people know about all this stuff, and so that's why it is helpful to explain all this, especially to public people. So and you can even share this stream if you want to as well. If you have someone who doesn't know the weather very well, this would be a great thing to share with them, so that way they understand what to do the next few days and all that stuff. So if you do want to share the stream, that would definitely be very helpful. But if we go ahead and look at another model, okay, this is the NAM small. I like to call it the NAMIS, but it's actually the NAMNST model. And with this one does want to show quite a bit of supercell composite, especially during the morning hours on Wednesday, which is going to be enough to, spark off some pretty strong to severe storms. But we even get kind of another round of that during the later hours on Wednesday, which is where the 1,000 joules per kilogram were when I was talking about Thursday threat, because if we go back to that with the NAM model is what I was using. If we go back to that, as you can see, all that cape is definitely helping to create bigger supercell composite, meaning a higher number of supercell composite, and so that will definitely indicate better chances for severe thunderstorms. But if we also go ahead and look at the significant tornado parameter, we haven't looked at that yet, and as you can see, we are getting some pretty widespread green color, which does indicate an extremely low chance. So it's not like you are going to see a tornado, but it does at least indicate that the potential is there. So still, it is going to be something to keep an eye on, and so it is certainly also going to be something to watch for too as well. And so yeah, and if we also look at the GFS model, we haven't looked at that one yet. Besides, that one isn't really a great model, especially when you're only heading just a little bit far out. This is more of a long range model, but we're still going to take a look at it to see what it thinks. And as you can see, it actually does still want to show some pretty good cape, you know, around 1,000 joules per kilogram, and that's the same thing that the NAM model showed, even the HRRR when I had it headed all the way out to the end. So we do have some good agreement on some 1,000 joules per kilogram, and as you can see, even the GFS model, which again is a long range model, you're usually wanting to use the short models when you're only heading just a little bit far out, but it does also want to show some pretty good pockets there of 4 out of 35, which is very low when you're talking supercell composite. But if you would have been talking, you know, up to 15 or even 20 for supercell composite, that would be a very, very likely threat for severe thunderstorms. But since we're only talking 2 out of 35, that's pretty low. So again, we will still have the potential, though. This even though models showed this, it doesn't mean they're always going to be right. This is just giving you a general idea on how things could certainly play out. But for Thursday and even Wednesday, this does look to be quite concerning, because, you know, we get at least 2 rounds of potential severe storms, because it does look like we could have one tonight, because as you can see, that line of storms is certainly getting closer, and it already looks like some of it has already built. Look at that, guys. Already a line of storms actually forming just east or even to the west of Evansville. Look at that, a line of storms already forming to the west of Evansville, and we're gonna see what this one does, guys. But for how things are looking like, this could definitely continue strengthening, and this actually might produce some damaging winds, large hail, and potentially some tornadoes. So I would definitely start being aware right now, because again, I'm just very surprised to see another line of storms form just to the east of where this one is, and so that is definitely a pretty big concern, guys. I'm not joking. This is a pretty big concern, because it does show a line of storms already forming to the west of Evansville, and that will likely do some pretty good impacts there. But something else I do want to show you guys, okay, and I just want to show you guys this. We're gonna be going down and looking at the radar, and we're gonna go to layers, and we're gonna be putting on some lightning so you guys can see. And again, as you can see, this radar also shows that line of storms already starting to form pretty much just to the east of where this one is, and as you can see, some pretty good lightning around. Holy moly. Look at all that, guys. A lot of lightning already showing up in places like eastern Iowa, back into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin. So we do have a lot of areas, guys. We do have a lot of areas that are seeing a ton of lightning. So this is definitely a huge concern, guys. A huge concern when you're talking lightning. So we definitely do need to be watching for lightning strikes too as well with some of these storms, which can cause power outages, even damage and all that stuff. So certainly still something to keep an eye on. But we're going to go back to what we were talking about just a minute ago, and as you can see, again, the GFS model does want to show some pretty good areas of some cape, and so this is pretty much to the point where we could certainly be talking a pretty good likelihood of some supercell composite, and that's because it even shows second round of that. But I know this is really far out, but I do want to show that in the future, especially as we do head into the end of April, we could be talking more severe weather. But look at that, that's pretty much 342 hours out. You're talking all the way out to April 30th, and that's way far out, guys. That's really far out. There's gonna be a lot of uncertainty, so we don't usually head this far out, but I'm just saying there could still be some pretty nasty severe weather events as we do head into the end of April, so it is still going to be something to keep an eye on as we do head into the end of April. And so yeah, it will be something that we do certainly need to be keeping an eye on. But let's also go ahead and take a look at the Tropical Tidbits website, and we're going to be talking about how the water temperatures are doing, because this also helps determine on if there's going to be El Nino or La Nina. And as you can see, it does show those water temperatures getting to the point where they could start to already be below average, because this is kind of how we expect them to play out. But for what this is showing, this is saying that water temperatures are already dropping like a rock and then slowly leveling out. But I think as it gets to at least here, we will start to drop significantly again. It will continue to be that way, where it drops a lot and then it levels out like a rock, and then it drops again, and then it levels out again, and it will continue to do so. So that's what we do expect there to happen the next few days, is where this is likely going to continue dropping a lot, and then, you know, evening out, dropping a lot, and then evening out. So this is what you certainly can expect to happen as we continue to get into the end of April, and so we will continue to be watching this. But let's also go ahead and look at what the temperatures are right now, because again, look how much those water temperatures have dropped. And again, we are still in an El Nino, but since we're less than 5, as you can see, we're pretty much 0.4, which is less than 5. We're talking only a minor El Nino, just a minor El Nino, and if we would have gotten past the 0 line, we already would have been in a La Nina. And as you can see, that strip right there is La Nina, at least for right now, meaning cooler than normal temperatures, and that's this whole blue area right here shown on the map, and then areas around the blue is still El Nino, meaning warmer than normal temperatures. So if this continues to get colder and colder the upcoming days, lots of these areas shown in red will likely be below normal too as well. And so again, we will continue to be watching the waters pretty much the next couple of days. And so, but let's go back and show you guys how this line of storms is doing. And again, we already still got some pretty good tornado warnings ongoing in parts up here towards, you know, Illinois, even up here towards southern Minnesota already ongoing, or even northern Iowa. So again, we do got some pretty good areas that we do still need to be watching. So here in places like northern Illinois, back into places like western Iowa or eastern Iowa and northern Illinois already has a bunch of tornado warnings ongoing. And if we click on them, it doesn't look like any have gotten a observed tag on it, which means we haven't seen a confirmed tornado yet. And again, they are all still radar indicated, which just means there's some area of rotation, but that does not always mean there will be a tornado. But if we look at this one down here, guys, this is a very isolated severe storm from all the other ones I was just talking about, and this one is just 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail, which I considered a common severe thunderstorm, because that is what we see with most severe thunderstorms that develop. But again, we are already seeing this line of storms trying to gain strength, trying to develop as it does move towards southwest Indiana, and even up here towards other areas in central Indiana, but even down here into western Kentucky, already trying to gain some strength, and even here into western Tennessee. So again, we do have a line of storms already trying to form, and so it will still be something to keep an eye on, and it hasn't gotten into southwest Indiana yet, which does tell me that it's slowly trying to form, and it's also moving very slowly, which means it's not, moving very fast. So again, it is certainly something that we do need to still be keeping an eye on as we continue to head into the nighttime hours, but you certainly still need to be weather aware if you do live in any of these threats, including the one for Thursday, and I can actually go ahead and show you that again, where on Thursday we still have a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for severe storms across places like southwest Indiana, including Evansville, back down there towards southern Illinois, southeast Missouri, back into central and northern Arkansas, even southeast Oklahoma and northeast Texas, and even heading into western Kentucky and Tennessee. So still certainly something that we do still need to be watching for, and so we certainly will continue to keep you guys updated with the latest that we see. So we still will be watching and figuring out what's going to be happening during the next few days. And if you are just joining, we are still going to continue to be live for maybe another 30 minutes or so, and it also depends on who wants to stay and who wants to leave the live stream, but feel free to stay as long as you want. Like I said, you can also leave questions in the chat if you haven't already, and feel free to do so. And if we go ahead and also show you guys tomorrow's threat is slightly different than Thursday's threat, where we do have a slight risk level 2 out of 5 threat for severe storms across portions here of northern Ohio, northeast Indiana, southeast Michigan, and even tornado threat is across the exactly same areas that do have the slight risk, but especially the wind and hail threat do look to be the most concerning concerns as we do head into tomorrow. So still something that we do need to be keeping an eye on, and so we will continue to keep you guys updated with the latest. But if we go ahead and look at how this line of storms is doing, as you can see, still about the same, hasn't really strengthened too much. But if we zoom in, it actually kind of shows you what it's going to do, and as you could see, we could start seeing a little bit more of that yellow color popping up, but we still don't know yet, and so that's why we are going to continue to watch and see if we are going to be talking about how things are going to be playing out. And so we will continue to keep you guys updated on how that line of storms is forming. And yeah, so I am going to be quickly looking at something, especially because not many of you guys are with me yet, but again, feel free to join if you haven't already. And after looking at a different radar on my phone, holy moly, that's some pretty nasty storms right there. So yeah, radar actually wants to show that line being very, very, very dangerous, and so that is definitely going to be a very big problem as we do head into the nighttime hours. So it does show that as this does move towards our area, this will continue to be a very big, powerful storm system that is going to move through. And so what I'm trying to mainly tell you guys is that as this storm does get closer to our area, which won't be this one, but this one over here, we will likely be talking a pretty good threat for some damaging winds, large hail, and even some tornadoes. But thank you guys so much for joining my live stream. I hope you guys have had a great time with me. I'm so glad you guys have also been keeping me updated with the latest on some things, but I'm also glad that some of you guys have told me thanks for the information and all that stuff. So again, thank you guys so much for also being weather aware and liking and subscribing. So we will continue to keep you guys updated with the latest. I might go live tomorrow, and you can be live with me if you are in a tornado warning or severe thunderstorm warning. And again, I'll see about that. We'll have to see how things are as we head into tomorrow, but for right now, things don't look too crazy for this area. But as they continue to get closer, we might continue to keep you guys updated with the latest. But thank you guys very much for watching my live stream, and we will continue to keep you guys updated with the latest.